on. Show me the screen. Don't stay waiting for Geek News Central. Refresh this. Couldn't get, come on, there we go. Way too many moving pieces here. Well, we got a bunch of people coming in. I did hit record. All right, so. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee, who had Skype was kicking your butt this afternoon, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there was definitely a conflict that happened with the Windows update that kind of made some changes to the connection with Skype, and it just wasn't working. So I had to reinstall Skype.
Who owns Skype?
I believe it's Microsoft.
And you did a Microsoft update, and the Microsoft update screwed up Skype. Yeah.
I don't know that's a fact.
See why I've been on Macs now for 2 or 3 years. I was a hardcore Windows guy, Rob.
I know you were.
At some point, ladies and gentlemen, and I know I still use PCs. One's right here.
Right.
And the TriCaster's a PC. Please, babies, don't break on me. It's one of those things. But I also use Macs too. But after a while, I gave up on. Well, we've talked about it 100 times here. We'll get you converted at some point.
Oh yes. Okay. Well, I'm thinking about even
going deeper,
moving over to getting this new Surface Duo that came out here in the next year probably, and dropping my iPhone maybe. So we'll see on that. And that's an Android device.
Well, I have a iPhone and an Android device, mostly Android for testing. But anyway, holy cow, you go away for the weekend and the news is just exploding, but it's good. We got a lot to talk about today. So
stuff piles up.
Yeah, it does. So how was you have a good Labor Day?
Yeah, it was relaxing, and so I can't really complain. So it was good.
I have a confession though. Monday, I did nothing.
That's good.
NOTHING, nothing. I stayed in my house. I had shorts on, not underwear. I had shorts on, and I watched YouTube, and I did nothing. It was beautiful.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works, right? Yes. Yeah, I think you have to at least take one day off.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm enthralled in a couple of YouTube series for some reason, sailing, lots of and I have no desire to ever live on a sailboat, nor could I afford to live on one. But these folks that get on these catamarans and go all over the world, that quite intense. I think in the times we live in, this is probably why we're all looking for something. It's as our psychics are saying, we need to escape. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's the fully engaged in the digital world change that we've made. I mean, I think at least half our time has been engaged in the real world.
Yeah.
Up to this, and now it's like the whole world revolves around doing stuff with the internet,
and doing this right here.
And it's like it's all encompassing now. So in some ways, you just got to get away from that a little bit. I was watching earlier today the IEB upfront. I don't know if you got a chance to pop into that.
No, I didn't even know they were streaming them.
Yeah, well, everything is a virtual event now.
Yeah.
So, that's also what's cool too, is you can attend everything now.
Was it well attended?
It didn't really give an audience number, but they kind of said in various places in the production that there was a lot of people watching.
Oh,
but
good.
But it's I don't know what those numbers were, but the presentations from the various content networks out there was impressive. I thought they did a nice job with it. NPR, Cadence 13, Stitcher, all those folks. The celebrities were rolling fast in all those those videos from Rob Lowe, and I guess Oprah is going to be on there, and it's going on basically all afternoon. I think till 4 p.m. Eastern.
Celebrities. And celebrities we are not. You know why? Come on, you're supposed to say why, Todd.
Why, Todd?
Well, our content is not valuable enough to steal. If our content was valuable enough, if we were like an Aaron Mahnke, where our content was valuable enough to be stolen and hijacked and put on Anchor,
Right.
we would be somebody. Maybe we could go to an upfront.
That's right. Exactly. That's the measure of success now. Whether or not your show gets stolen.
Your show is stolen.
Right.
And ripped off.
There you go. Right.
So I don't know. Did you hear what happened with him?
No. What happened?
Oh,
no. I saw the thread that he created online about how it was happening.
Yeah. So again, another show hijacked, stolen, ripped off, episode by episode, album art, title, everything. He had 2 listings on Spotify, and of course, it was some culprit started the show on Anchor, more than likely probably to try to. Again, I'm assuming, I don't know, to cash in.
Well, that's one of the downsides of these platforms getting so easy to publish content and to move, RSS feeds. And if you make it free, your barriers to entry are pretty low.
Yeah,
people can cut and paste RSS feeds.
So Aaron's a long time, well-known face in the podcasting space.
Right.
Very well respected. Does a lot of great content. He has launched a show called American Shadows. It's in conjunction, I think, with iHeart, maybe somebody. It's a pretty big deal. They spent a lot of time, a lot of money, getting that show up online. And Aaron and I have had a little tweet back and forth a few times. And I've said, what did they say? What did they tell you? Did they call? Did they email? And so what happened was someone, again, stole his show and put it up on Anchor like it's been happening already. And he says, yes. And my question really was, what did you hear? What was he says, yes, I received a call from them this weekend. I've made it clear what they need to do to turn this around. Whether they listen to me or not is up to them. So I'd love to have, so I probably should have followed up with Aaron and say, what did you make clear to them? So maybe I'll ask that maybe during the show today. He'll respond with some context, but well,
I think we all know the reason that there's a problem that exists, and it's the unfettered submission process that Anchor has with these listening platforms. That is quite different than the rest of us.
But irregardless of the Apple Anchor relationship,
right?
The simple fact that he had 2 listings on Spotify,
right,
and now 2 listings everywhere else, and I went and looked, and sure enough, I had 2 listings for his show,
right?
So it went out wide and far. So here's Rob. This is what I'm talking to my team about.
Well,
the Blueberry
this
team.
Is nothing new.
I know.
Let me set this table. This has been going on for years.
Yep.
It's just now it's it's hitting the big shows, and now they're all freaked out about it. Yep. But this possibility has been around, and I've had to deal with it many times over the years. So in some ways, this is like, okay, here we go again. This has been going on for a long time.
So I'm having a internal discussion with my team. Do we put Anchor in the penalty box for the directory? Do we stop accepting shows with do I say we can't? Do I just exclude all Anchor shows from the Blueberry directory? That'd be unfair to a lot of podcasters over there, because we take all podcasts, no matter what, in the directory. But am I at a point now where they're causing individuals like Aaron pain? Do I say, okay, you have to have 20 episodes on Anchor before you're allowed to be in my directory? So do I go and put a global ban and say we're not putting any Anchor shows on Blueberry's podcast directory?
Well, Todd, that is probably an extreme reaction to this. I think it's a
But what do we do?
Technological thing is what it is.
But they have to be held to account. If they're not going to address it publicly, what they're going to do.
Yeah, but this is going on more than just Anchor. So this has been going on for a long time on other hosting platforms too. So this isn't something new. It's whenever you make the availability of adding as many shows as you want to your account, right? I face this at Spreaker too. Spreaker has this, you come in, you buy a certain amount of audio storage, right? And you can create as many shows as you want. And it's just as easy as cutting and pasting an RSS feed into that. And it exports all the files and duplicates the RSS feed, right? So I think what this is going to force us to do is to all of our platforms, all the listening platforms are going to have to look for duplicates based on other criteria other than just the RSS feed.
Well, we make people authenticate. If they want to claim their show, they have to authenticate that they are the owner. We don't allow them to claim a show on our directory. And
because what the common trait see here is that these are clones. These are clones of the original feed.
Right.
And if the listening platform is smart enough to look for duplicates, they should be able to pick this up. So I don't know if this was an issue on Spotify, or not. It's an interesting question. I haven't heard anybody complain about Spotify having these duplications. I mean, or did you find?
Well, no, there was a duplicate of Aaron's show on Spotify.
Oh, on Spotify. Okay, so Spotify isn't comparing metadata.
By the way, when you say Anchor, you're talking to Spotify now. You're not talking to Anchor no more.
Right. No. I mean, in their listening platforms.
Right.
I was talking about. There's a distinction there, but I think it's an issue around the listening platforms taking a little bit more responsibility for their catalogs.
So how do I, as a directory, determine feed A or feed B is the real deal? Therein lies the problem, because so number one,
that's where the validation issue comes in.
Number one, a majority of this will be stopped if Apple stops the automated submissions. Now, of course, even if you have an person at Apple that's approving shows, he's not going to know unless they have some tool in their program that says, hey, this is a dupe title listing. I don't know what level they do on review of shows. Really don't. I don't know what type of safeguards they have when I submit a show manually, what they do to double check that's not a copyrighted shows.
It's unusual for a show, though, to completely change their feed URL. Usually it's redirect behavior, right?
But that's not the point. Someone created an account, created and actually posted. They didn't do an import, I don't think, of the feed. They posted each of these episodes, title, description, as new episodes. I don't think I think
that most of the time that I've seen this happen is part of a feed cloning process. So they'll cut and paste the RSS feed that comes from Serial or from Lore or whatever podcast it is directly into their account, and they'll add it as a show as part of their account.
Yeah,
that's how I've seen it done.
But when we have someone migrate to us, it's just not. There is not there's a man in the middle.
Yeah, and you're not going to see this happen probably on you're not going to see this happen on Lip because of how we manage our account. Each one is a separate account you have to pay for, right?
Yeah.
What's happening here is these are free, right?
Right.
That anybody can just walk in and create, right? I don't think a pirate's going to come in and pay for a hosting account. You know what I'm saying? That's just
they could use a promo code to get a 30-day free trial, but they're going to be found before this is over anyway.
Right.
So it's an issue. But then again, nothing's to stop. Apple has no idea that unless because of this automated process with Anchor, where those shows I assume are just getting approved, again, maybe Apple can.
I don't even know that there's a vetting process.
I don't know.
Actually,
I think I'm going to say
I
that
used to submit shows to my account with Apple when I worked for Podcast One, and I cut and paste them into the tool, and they immediately got added.
You had a network account.
Right. That's what this is, I think, is a network.
Well, they don't show up underneath Anchor's network mantra. Anchor shows don't show up. Like Tech Podcast has its own network landing page. There's not a.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Right. So who knows how that's actually going in? Because that tool that you're talking to, I thought they was very, very limited. And I haven't been in that tool in over a year. So I don't know if
and I was told that tool was going to get shut down.
Right.
Anyway.
So I don't think that's how it's being accomplished. I think Anchor's got some script they're running, but it is what it is.
So the only other way of doing it, I think, is for them to have an Apple ID account, but then that would automatically route through the review process.
But this is not going to stop a rogue person from cloning a show.
Right.
Unless there's a check that says, oh, here's a flag thrown because the title is exactly the same. What if you use one letter different? Does the flag still get thrown?
Right.
Is there a pause on? But this was a clone show that just got approved.
Right.
So it's a mess because then that replicates immediately throughout the entire system. And I know you guys are listening over there, so I'm sure you're scratching your head a little bit, but the slow again if and again I don't know how they're doing this over there. To be frank with you, we have no clue the onboarding process at Apple when someone submits a show. Does that go in front of? Does that actually?
What kind of a special deal Anchor has?
Well, regardless, let's say how many thousands of submissions are there.
Right.
How much time does an approver have to look at a bing, 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 bing? Again, without knowing how they do it over there, we really can't talk fairly to it. But
right, that's true.
So, but still, there was it's again another duplicated show, replicated all the way through all the apps, and so meanwhile, Mark gets screwed. They spent all this money on this new show, and the revenue stream got split, and maybe that person that submitted that clone show didn't make a penny, but still it's lost revenue to Mark and all the others this is happening to.
To Aaron, yeah. But
Doug says, couldn't an enterprising lawyer just file class action against Anchor/Spotify? Well, I think it depends.
That's not going to fix the technology issue.
No. No.
Yeah, what we're trying to solve is how do we keep this from happening in the future from a technology perspective? And I think that is a challenge. Each one of these listening platforms is going to have to take that on.
Yeah.
I think.
And, we've got some dupes in our system, but it's usually because someone has moved and they didn't set up a redirect or, there's a few things like that are going on.
This is a fallout from making it so easy to create a podcast, move a podcast. And if a person isn't paying for it, then, that there isn't any risk.
When someone's moving from you to me or you to, there's a coordination that happens.
Right.
Because we're told on our end, here's what you got to do. And you tell them on your end, here's what's got to do.
Right.
And there's a email verification. We just don't let, someone contact us. Hey, we want to move our show. Well, the email address you're coming to me from is not the email address on your account, number one. Number two, can you validate here through your email and your RSS feed? If I can't, believe me, we've had jokers come in and try to hijack shows too. So,
yeah. But there's one more example of how the paid platforms are generally resist this kind of stuff.
I'm not saying that we wouldn't be susceptible. Someone could have come in and trade. Someone could have.
there hasn't been a strong issue that I've seen. That, especially if there's one podcast with each account. I think when you have one account that can have multiple podcasts and there's no additional obstacle or charge or fees associated with that, it tends to happen more.
So it's nothing to say someone couldn't come over to either one of our platforms, pay the money,
right? They could
and create a clone. And they could submit that feed to Apple just the same.
They could. I think that they're less likely that there's not a strong history of that happening on a paid platform.
But I'm not going to be so naive to think that it couldn't happen. But there's no incentive because there's no automated monetization.
Well, that's the other part of this. It's the automated monetization, right? It's the same issue that's existed on YouTube. This is like an exact clone to what's been going on YouTube for many years too.
Mm-hmm.
So people will take media from other places and put them up there and then run automated ads against it. Well, Google's cracked down on that.
Douglas says, do we need watermark to assign to? But the thing is, the watermark still would not, I don't think would stop what has happened here.
If it's cloned from the original feed,
it's the original content, original feed. What you really have to do is determine the real goal or the real solution is feed authority. Right. What is the authority feed? Feed authority. Now, how do you establish feed authority?
Show, and it's mapped only to that
right.
feed URL. Right.
But again, feed authority does you no good when someone clones it, because that becomes authority for that clone.
Well, the URL typically changes.
But so Rob, we'll take the new media show. We'll go over to Anchor.
Right.
Create an account.
Yep.
And assign the RSS feed to that to migrate. We'll migrate the show to Anchor. So we've got a whole listing of new media show on Anchor. Then we don't do
this exact same thing on Spreaker, you know.
Then we do the 30. We don't do the 301 redirect here.
Right.
And we submit the new media show to Apple. Even just submit it manually. We turn off automated submissions.
Yeah.
So we can clone this show. So who's the authority? Who then becomes the authority? What if it's got the same email address that this feed has in it now? Well, I'm just being stupid here, but
it could.
It could.
Right.
So I could clone and dupe the show on my own here without probably take me 15 minutes.
Yeah, I did it over on Spreaker. I duplicated the new media show over on Spreaker, just to get distribution on Spreaker.
Right. But that's set up to pull the feed.
To use that as a platform to do live audio.
Yeah. And so the feed for new media shows being pulled over there, but yet it's still a publishing account.
Right. And I turned off the external feed availability on that account over there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it's something we're gonna have to watch, and it's not just Anchor's problem. This could be bigger over the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the responsibility exists on the listening platforms to block this stuff, and maybe to some degree on the publishing platforms too. I just don't know that we can 100% guarantee on the listening side unless there's some sort of common, like you say, authority key or something.
Right.
So, what did you think of Adam Curry's launch of a new open podcast directory?
Hang on one second. Telling someone to go.
Okay.
I had a employee emergency.
Oh. Okay.
All right, we're okay. Go ahead. What do I think about Adam Curry's launch of Podcast 2.0?
Yeah, did you listen to his first episode of his podcast?
I did.
I did too.
Now, Adam, you're not listening, but I have to have a little discussion with you on a couple of things.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It feels very, what can I say? It feels very
2004.
2004, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we have to say much more than that, but.
Well, here's what it is. It's so funny because with all the stuff that's been going on, it fits right into things we've been talking about on this show.
Well, it does, but it's also a throwback to the past.
Yeah. So what Adam's going to do, in essence, those of you that aren't informed, is he's going to have an open directory, and he feels that, how should I say it, that Apple has become agendanized with their directory. Is that the proper word to say? Is that the right?
I'm not sure that there's a lot of evidence.
I don't think so either. There's one incident, that they use as an example, and I think it's a stretch.
They were kind of doing similar things a long time ago with their podcast university area that they had, or their edu area of the catalog, where things were only available on the Apple platform. So in some ways, this isn't something new that Apple's done.
So why, so just for a background, let's give everyone a little history lesson here. So in the beginning of podcasting, Adam created a directory. It was built on OPML,
which was originally created by Dave Weiner.
And I don't know if OPML was designed by Dave Weiner.
Well, he was involved in perpetuating the spec of it.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, this OPML spec was used to build a directory, and there was no API. It was just an OPML file. And what an OPML file is similar to an RSS feed, but it's more structured. So, for example, in an OPML file, you can have I don't know if I want to call it an item, or within an entry, you can have a title, RSS feed. You can have some certain information that's in there, and that was used as a basis to build a directory that could be segmented by country and topic and category, and really you had all these availabilities to subdivide and subconquer the content. And
it's basically built on XML, but it's basically a structured file format that allows you to link other files to it and create like a tree structure, like a directory, that lists RSS names of shows and RSS feeds. That was primarily, and you could create different lists of things inside of that OPML file. And the vision that they had for many years was this open directory. This goes back to 2004, 2003 when this idea came out, because that's what they used in the original iPod app as their directory, because there wasn't anything that existed before that, right? Apple hadn't launched. And so in some ways, this is a throwback to that time. And I think he's thinking that there needs to be a new directory of all the podcasts that is independent of Apple.
Right. So you're right, though. It was done by Userland, by Dave Weiner. So OPM was an acronym for Outline Processor Markup Language. And there are some people like Adam and some other folks that love OPML. They love the outliner. I thought it was
really cool too. It's just, it's really geeky.
Yeah, it is super geeky. So OPML file format is used to exchange information between applications that run in different operating systems, kind of like RSS. The OPML format is, again, based on XML, like Rob said. And so anyway, long story short, they formed an LLC.
Yeah.
They're going to, sounds like, crowdfund it. And they are going to have they've got an API, and it's in progress and going to be developed. And basically, this is going to be something that is going to protect the podcasting space and just be open. Now, about 10 years ago, Todd was sitting around with my team, and I'm like, what happens?
Go back a little further to that, because remember, we talked about this a long time ago, because I was looking at trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah. So anyway, we had built Blueberry was originally a directory only. It didn't. It
Right.
had stats. So when Blueberry
Right.
launched, the only product
Right.
we sold, we didn't even sell, was stats. Stats,
Mhm.
and you get to be in the directory. The directory wasn't a way to get people to use stats. It was just this kind of this closed loose thing. It was it was the candy at the end of the shelf. And later on, we added all the other stuff that goes on with Blueberry. But Blueberry started as a directory because originally, what we call the raw voice generator was used to build a site that we called Podcaster News that was basically set up to be like what you wanted, Rob, regional stuff. We did this for regional reporting. It was 15 years before its time. It's still probably too early for it. But anyway, long story short, we had this great directory. And I said, what if someone wants to pull that directory? And Angela's like, well, we'll just add an API to it.
Well, Todd, if you remember what what happened is I was working at Microsoft on the Zune platform, Zune podcasting platform, and Microsoft was balking it, creating a new podcast directory for Windows Phone. And so I thought I can just go out and create a new directory and have Microsoft contract with this new directory to supply it to whatever listening platform
you ever
they
call
want
me?
to plug into it. What that?
I don't think you called me.
I think no.
Or
we
did we?
talked about it.
Wow.
And
My brain.
and yeah, and I think that culled this thought that the industry needed this directory like you wound up creating, because I didn't wind up building it because Microsoft decided that they didn't want to get involved in podcasting again, and I didn't really want to build this thing and not have a client for it. So, and I think you started to build your complete catalog as a fallout from that.
We put the Blueberry directory online in 2006 at Gnome Deck.
Yeah, you had a directory, but it wasn't a complete directory.
It was not, and you had to submit.
Right.
So
and that's what the difference.
yeah, you had to submit.
Directory.
Yeah, so we would 30, 40,000 listings or whatever it was, and then at some point,
right,
and it hasn't been too long, maybe 10 years.
Yeah,
we said let's just go ahead and populate it. Let's fill it, and then we filled it. So from that point, it was just for us, and it was again another way to get people over to Blueberry, claim their show, and business wise, I can send them an email then, and then we added the API to it.
We were nervous that just like Adam was nervous, right? That Apple was going to pull the open APIs.
I was hoping Apple would pull the open APIs because I built this thing on the speculation that Apple might shut down the APIs, and I would be like, hey, hey, all you got to do is here's the 6 or 7 API calls, and you're good. And oh, by the way, here's the contract. And
right.
So that exists today.
Yeah. What Adam is talking about here exists in your platform right now.
But I'm a commercial entity. It's not open.
That's
open
right. Platform, right?
Yeah, I'm commercial, and he's saying, "Oh, well." In essence, he's formed an LLC, so he's on the razor's edge here in saying that because he's a company too now. So, but they've made these statements, and I believe him, and for his, what he wants to do there. But it is an interest, and I think there is room to have a master. Another master directory. I think maybe it will be used, maybe it won't. Will people like Marco, or will people like Pocket Cast, or will those other folks tap that?
I don't think so.
We'll see.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, how is he going to populate the initial catalog is my question. You going to pull it from Apple?
Everybody does.
Yeah.
But
then how is he going to keep it up to date?
That's what their charter is.
So that means that everybody has to submit to this. But they don't have a submissions process
yet.
Yeah.
So
you can see where I'm going with this.
Oh, absolutely. Right? I know. I fully understand it.
Yeah. no different than what exists today.
True.
Right.
So,
Not yet, anyway. Not
so
yet,
we'll
anyway.
see. We'll see what his grand master plan is. But
Right.
I think that, we've been prepared. Mike said we did the full directory in 2011. So
Yeah, that sounds
9
right.
years.
Yeah.
So we've been prepared for this day since 2011. And I
Right.
said on the last show, Apple's never going to close the open API. I said they won't.
Yep.
I don't believe if they do, what did I say? $100?
$100 goes to whoever.
Yeah, whatever your choice.
I don't know who you're going to pay it to.
You have to pick a charity or something. Yeah.
I thought the other stat that was a little bit shocking in what they shared on their podcast was that there was only 50,000 podcasts out of the million that they had in their catalog that had an active episode in the last 90 days.
Well, the number that a friend of ours has been reporting has had me scratching my head for a while too. So I'm not saying
what are you talking about, Daniel?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying
Why?
his number isn't wrong, but I don't show anywhere near that many active shows either.
Oh, as far as what Daniel's showing?
Yeah. My number's significantly different.
So you think it's closer to what was talked about in this podcast?
Unless you have, the only way you can truly, truly understand this, and you can do all the API calls to Apple you want, but unless you have your own directory built.
Already completely built.
Completely built.
And operating.
And have ground truth on the data, on the GUIDs, on matching episodes to all that stuff.
Right.
It's, to me, 300,000 active shows in the last so many days seems, well, I'm not going to tell you the number I have. It's higher than Adam's, but not.
I would think so. Yeah.
But he has less shows and he's only got I've got some duped. So he's got he said what, under 1 million or just at 1 million listings, right?
I think it was 1.08 million or something like that. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, just a little over 1 million feeds.
But I've been collecting RSS feeds for 8 years, 9 years. So
how do you get yours, Todd?
Everywhere I can. I scrape Apple. I scrape Apple. We have our own scraper. I think there's 3 or 4 different ways we build the list, but yeah, we pull from Apple too.
Right.
To get the initial load, that's where the majority of the new stuff comes in. High majority of it, probably 90%.
So let's play this out. How is this going to work? At some point, the only way that this catalog would be really equal to what Apple has as far as the catalog is if everybody submits to his platform the same time they submit to Apple, right?
Let me also make a statement. There's probably a reason why he's got only 1 million listings. Because here's the thing, Apple's directory number can never go down. It always has to be higher. You can't, from a stock perspective, and I hope someone's smiling over there. You cannot. Okay, so let's say that there's 1.6 million podcasts in the Apple Podcast Directory.
Well, Todd, when was the last time that they announced the size of the catalog?
Okay, so, and let's say then they announce there's 1.4. Oh my God, the podcasting space is shrinking. Right. So they can only delete a portion of dead shows, dead feeds. They can't delete more than they add, and they have to show significant. Yes, there you go, teeter-totter up, right? So,
right.
I have a pretty good idea where the dead bodies are laid in the directory business. and dead bodies being dead shows.
Well, there's been a bunch of those lately, hasn't there?
And yes, and I'm at a point too where we've been doing a little cleanup work. And at some point in the near future, the Blueberry podcast directory numbers are going to go down because we're cleaning up the database a little bit. And let me give you the number today. What do I have? What do I have today in my system? I have 1,380,875,000 podcast listenings. How many of those are dead?
So if you go to Daniel's site, what's he showing right now?
You'll have to bring it up. Can't remember the name of the.
I never knew it either.
Let me see here if I can find it.
The podcast. Review something.
Yeah, podcast. Just do Daniel J. Lewis podcast reviews, and you'll get there. Someone help us with the link here in the chat.
Hey. Oh, shoot.
Let's see if I can do a filter here.
Oh, yeah. Here it is. My podcast review.
Oh, yeah.
All right. He's showing right now 1,430,342.
1,430,000, and I'm at 1,380,000. Now, let me tell you how many failed RSS feeds I have. So, failed today in my directory means that we can't pull them. 11,017. I got 11,000 that in the last 3 hours, I haven't been able to pull 11,000 feeds of the 1,300,000 and whatever my number was. So not that bad.
So he's showing here 45.03% of all the podcasts in that catalog have had at least one episode in the last 90 days. 45%.
I'll let him claim his number.
Do you agree or disagree with that number?
Disagree.
Is it on the downside or the upside?
His numbers were high. Why does Adam Curry and Adam's no dummy? Why do they only have 57,000 act? Now, again, did he say in the last 30 days? What was their measurement?
I don't. I think it was in the last 90 days.
Oh, did I just kill my server?
Which I think is a standard way of measuring that. Those are pretty much how everyone looks at that metric.
Well, okay. Well, we'll use, in the scheme of things, who cares how many active shows there are?
Well, I think a lot of podcasters care because it's really a vector of how much competition they might perceive in the market, right?
Yeah, I've had a task out for Angelo. See if he responded.
My contention to a lot of podcasters is that there's not as much competition out there as they fear there is.
Right.
Especially as you look at individual podcast categories, right? You go in and you look at shows that are in your genre that you're competing against. I would go in and look and see when the last time all your competitors published an episode.
Yeah.
That'll give you a clearer picture on how much competition you have in your particular genre.
Getting back to the podcast 2.0 thing, I think that, what he's doing is admirable, and I don't care what his reasons are.
Well, I think his stated reasons were his concern of the concept that you've been concerned about. It's the deplatforming issue.
Right.
He was a guest back on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast here. I've heard comments that it wasn't all that great of an episode.
I think Joe was baked.
Right. Could be. Right.
And Adam couldn't get a word in edgewise, is what I heard.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So,
but anyway, I think Adam is very much a proponent of the early culture of podcasting, right?
Yeah.
Non-commercial, open,
yeah,
and accessible to everyone.
mm-hmm.
And I think you and I, Todd, have the same
A little bit
general feeling about it.
Yeah.
It's just I think we've been living in the trenches of this medium longer than Adam has.
Right. I think some stuff Adam may be a little bit disconnected with too.
Right.
Hey, we don't see everything. My God.
Oh, how can you?
Oh, cannot. Our prism is limited to, Libsyn, Blueberry, and, the podcasters we talk to. Our prism doesn't go real wide because what are we not doing? We're not drinking beer in the hallways and staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning and getting all the scuttlebutt.
Right.
And for those of you that aren't sailors, scuttlebutt is the rumors or the commentary that you are off the record and, all those things that we're told.
Right. And spending time with the bigger companies in the medium too.
Yeah.
The Spotify's and the Stitchers and stuff like that. I mean, I was going to the meetings with those guys. The last meeting that I went to in person for the Podcast Academy was in the Stitchers offices in downtown New York. So, those kind of things aren't happening anymore.
Nope.
Right. So any kind of information that we get, we garner just like, everybody else pretty much, except for, maybe Skype or Zoom calls or whatever that we're doing, talking with people from these platforms. That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the level of communication across the industry has kind of been reduced pretty dramatically.
Say that again?
I think that the level of overall communication across the industry has dropped significantly since this COVID thing.
Not only that, people are suiting up. There's so much competition,
right,
that they're not willing to talk too much. I mean, we used to have these great open conversations that were pretty frank.
Yeah, I think as the stakes have gotten larger, the bigger investment, the bigger the money, the bigger the stakes, people have a tendency to protect stuff a little bit more than maybe they did in the earlier days of the medium. Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but it can't hurt. What he's doing can't hurt, and I hope some folks get behind him and build it out. And
yeah, I think that the likely outcome of this is that it's going to be a question that's going to come up for both of us. Is do we want to build submissions to this into our publishing platform?
Or in other words, submit to the directory?
Correct.
Oh.
That's part of, what we normally do with.
Well, they haven't even talked how they're going to handle that. So maybe.
But they are talking about APIs. But
mostly for app developers. They're not talking about APIs for folks like us.
But yeah, they didn't really be really clear about how they're going to be getting the content for this.
No.
So, and I'd say that's probably of equal importance to, working with the apps.
So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. And I'm going to try. I've sent an invite out to Adam to talk about this during International Podcast Day. So we'll see if we get a response from him. If not, I'll be talking about something else. But
well, he's welcome to come back on this show to talk about it.
Absolutely. And we'll let him talk more than Rogan let him talk. And but at the same time, I think that I definitely want to just have a one-on-one with Adam too.
Right.
And that way I can be kind of frank.
Yeah.
And I think a few people on my team don't get it. And it's mostly the newer team members that don't understand why he's doing this. And I think you and I, at the core, there may be a lot of people are like, why is he doing this? Does this make any sense? And
Well, I think if you listen to his podcast that he did with his co-host, I guess he's a web developer, Dave Jones. It's very reminiscent of a podcast that happened or would have happened in 2004, right? It was a very geeky.
But people don't. They still say why.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is the mindset. So let me just run you through. I spoke at Dragon Con on Saturday, and I gave my fire and brim. Huh?
Did you talk about this?
No, but I gave my fire and brimstone RSS in the modern era.
Gotcha.
And I talked about gatekeepers and why there were gatekeepers in 2004, 2005, and why podcasting exploded the way it did, and why now we have modern gatekeepers that we all participate in. We actively participate in Facebook. We're on Pandora. We're on Spotify. We actively participate with these gatekeepers.
Right.
But we also are underneath the full understanding that they can take car keys away at any time. We're guests on their platform.
Right.
99% of us will never have the car keys taken away from us. They'll probably never, ever turn on Podcasters Back. It is, again, I'm just saying, I'm trying to iterate what Adam is saying, is that what we have here is very, very precious. And Adam's trying to protect the space. You and I are trying to protect the space and making sure we're getting the word out why an open ecosystem is important. So this is, and that's basically the essence of that presentation.
Right.
Of why what we have is super, super special. And all of you listening knows, if you've been listening to Rob and I for any given amount of time, you know why what we have here is truly unique. There's nothing.
Well, I think the big takeaway from this for me, as I think about it with Adam, is that Adam is sensing a change happening around the open nature of podcasting. And this is his instinct to react to that.
Right.
Right. And that is to go around like you said, the gatekeeper, right? And build something which is really at the fabric of what podcasting was all about. It was about breaking the stranglehold on gatekeepers.
Yep.
But this was a non-commercial medium.
But I had people in that presentation, Rob, that were like, "You're crazy. They're never going to do this or that." And I know I don't go in and say that everyone's going to get shadow banned. I don't go in and say you're going to be deplatformed. I don't go, but I make the case it could happen.
Well, and it has.
And it has, but people are like, what you're saying is crazy. This will never happen to me. That was the response. And that, in essence, scares the crap out of me. We have to have learned YouTube demonetization, YouTube shadow banning content they don't feel looks good in front of advertisers. We've got Twitter devoicing people. It goes on and on and on. And the thing that gets people pissed off is when I tell them it's just not conservatives that they're saying this is happening. People say, well, they lose a sprocket in their brain when I tell them
freedom
that
of speech is not a conservative or liberal issue. It's the Constitution.
And it's in companies, who have whatever they want on their platform. So when I tell them that there's been people of color that have been silenced on Facebook, they're like, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, how do you know it's not happening? Have you talked to anyone that actually has had this happen? So this is the type of reaction is people don't believe that what is happening in the space today is a molded message. Companies are molding messages to put stuff in front of you that they want you to listen to or hear or see. It may not be completely overt, but regardless of what you think about what I just said, Rob, you may disagree with me completely, But podcasting, there's nothing like, okay, freedom of press. People had a printing press back in the day, and they could print a newspaper. And in America, when they did the freedom of press, they could print a newspaper and it not be controlled by the state. That was an incredible time, if you think about it, because if you were in Europe, there was no freedom of the speech. You could not talk bad about the king or queen. Off with your head, right? Go to Iran or go to China. You say something bad about the leadership, you all of a sudden end up in a penal farm for the next 20 years for re-education while you're pounding rock. It still happens in the world today. So podcasting is the only medium that is not controlled by some suit, some corporate entity. It's shaped. You have people creating media, getting ad deals and all this stuff, but there's no YouTube. Sure, you go out on YouTube and you can create content over there. But again, you're renting a place on YouTube until they're unhappy with you and make you go away. Podcasting is the only place today I feel that is truly protected.
I think I agree with you, Todd, in concept, but in some ways, I think you could say that we're kind of a hybrid medium right now. There's been enough big companies that have gotten in this medium that are playing a little bit of that old traditional media game with the medium.
Right. But at the core.
Right. At the core of the medium, it's an open medium. There's no question. It's built on an open standard around distribution. Right. But there are gatekeepers that exist in podcasts.
But it's my job,
100% open.
But my job and your job of this show, no one owes us anything.
I don't play a gatekeeper role in any capacity.
No, I'm saying no. We, you and I, are solely responsible for promoting the show and making people know where it comes from so they can come listen to it.
Right.
No, we're not beholden. I don't care if iHeart, I don't care if Apple, I don't care if anyone gives me podcast of the week or any of that stuff. Sure, that's great. If they don't, so what? The simple fact is, guess what Todd and Rob have? We've got a printing press. Right? We're printing out papers here and handing them out to whoever wants to listen. And hopefully we got good enough content. No one can shut this printing press off. On YouTube, you can be shut off. On Twitch, you can be shut off. Facebook, you can be shut off. Spotify, you can be turned off. Pandora, you can be turned off.
Right.
But at the core...
Spotify, you could be turned off.
Absolutely. But at the core...
Right.
And this is, hate to say it, but any of you have been listening to me a few years. And you know what I'm going to say next. Look at this little thing right here. Let me see if I can show it. There's this cool little thing on my website. It's got this little
web player.
No, not the web player. We're looking at the right-hand side. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Android. But there's a little thing here called RSS. And when I click on that, it gives me a page of stuff that, oh my God, just makes your eyes glaze over, right? This, for those of you that are watching, I'm showing the RSS feed in true text format. That is true freedom of speech. Right there. And it's on newmediashow.com. It's on my RSS feed. They can take me off every platform, but Rob and I can be online. You can subscribe to the show.
But you know what, Todd? This episode of this show is an example of the full spectrum of podcasts.
True.
Right? It can be something that's extremely positive, and it can be used in a very, I'm going to say, unethical way. Right? That's the spectrum that we're showing here. Openness and freedom can sometimes come with a price.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not, being a free and open platform is not without risk and not without a price.
So what is the risk, Rob?
The risk is that your content gets pirated.
Oh, true.
Or stolen.
True.
Or you get deplatformed
from
these big companies.
Absolutely.
Right. That's the risk. But there's that's a risk for any content creator in the digital market today. Not just podcasting, but there's this other side to it, which you're explaining here, is that is an open standard there that can be dropped into any feed reader, any kind of. I mean, frankly, you don't even need a feed reader. Just go in and copy and paste the enclosure tag and put it into a browser, and you're listening to the content.
For this show and Geek News Central, be frank with you, if someone cloned Geek News Central, I'd be pissed? Yeah, I'd be pissed. But guess where my advertisement is?
In the content.
In the content.
So in some ways,
don't care where they listen, long as they listen.
A bad thing, right? I mean, it's bad from the standpoint that you're not able to count that play and report it to the advertiser, but it could drive a stronger ROI for your campaign.
So we've talked about one thing or talked about the other, but it's true. You as Todd and Rob of the New Media Show, we have to protect our IP. Mm-hmm. We have to protect our content. We go see it someplace that it's not at. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to do a DMCA takedown on that content as quick as I can.
Right.
And, and raise Cain on this show about someone cloning the content. But in the end, someone thought it was good enough to be cloned. So that's like, wow, we made the big time. But, at what value are they going to get from it? Well, probably not a lot from this show. But that's true. It is the plus and minus of being in an open space. But I'll take open over signing and having to kiss somebody's beep once in a while and having to not have holidays recording and not be able to take a break. What did you do? You went off and had a little break this weekend. Did we do a show? No. Do you have any pressure to do a show? No. I was like, cool, have a good time.
Right.
If we're signed with somebody, like they say, Rob, you can't take a vacation. You're contracted to do 2 shows a week.
Right.
We're not underneath that constraint. But at the same time, Rob, how much you get paid for this show?
I think it's a swift kick in the head, I think.
Right. So I'll just go back and say what Adam's doing, I fully support. He is going on contingency. He is going on emergency contingency. That's what it is. He is in Papa Bear mode, wanting to protect the space.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Because he's seeing some warning signs.
Yeah.
And guess what? He just went on the Joe Rogan podcast. So is that one of those warning signs, Todd?
I haven't listened to the episode yet.
No, but just the fact that Joe Rogan did that deal.
Oh. Like I said, I hope Joe cashed the check. And I hope he wrote in vacation days and everything else that Bud didn't do.
and Adam said on that new podcast that he launched, the Podcast 2.0 podcast, was that his move over to Spotify leaves open
sure,
an opportunity in the podcasting medium. Because guess what? I don't think can we really consider Joe Rogan to be a podcaster anymore?
Oh, by the way, it's the Joe Rogan show, not the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right. Well, it's the Joe Rogan experience.
Oh, excuse me. The Joe Rogan experience will no longer be a podcast. Oh, and I did have a little chuckle today. I got thinking about something. I was today's the day, if you haven't submitted to be on Amazon, this is the last day you can submit a show, either through your form or your online portal form. And I don't think it really matters at this point how you submit it.
Or through Libsyn too.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of the hosts have their own submission process. But again, we're not about lock-in at Blueberry, so you can submit every way you want because Amazon hasn't indicated to us yet what they're going to be sending back.
Right.
But long story short, today's your last day to submit to be part of the launch. The list of shows are going to be part of the launch, and we don't know what the launch date is. And if I did know, I couldn't tell you. We
honestly don't know.
Yeah. So when I went over there and submitted my the Geek News Central and New Media Show on the Amazon forum to make sure these two shows were going to be listed. I got to check a lot of the Audible, the Audible logo. Have you looked at the Audible logo lately?
I think I've seen it. Why don't you pull it up?
To find it. I'm going to be so much trouble here. And maybe I haven't noticed.
They expect from us.
And maybe I haven't noticed this in a while, but I've got it up in the. I've done the Google search, the Google image search. So you see the waves above the Audible. You see the RSS waves.
Right. Well, that's coming out of a book. Right?
Okay. Well, I know, but it also made me think. Okay, so let's look at an RSS feed. All right, it's different, but I had a little chuckle here because Audible's doing exclusive podcasts.
Right, it's not really a podcast.
It's not a podcast. So I saw that little thing. I'm like, okay, it's supposed to be sound coming out of a book.
It's like a sound wave, right?
But it also has this double connotation. It could be implied it's an RSS. The RSS logo too, right? Kind of on its side a little bit, hijacked a little bit. Because let's go back and we'll look at an RSS feed. It's again. Let me just Google an RSS image.
Oh yeah, it has the same kind of pattern.
Yeah, it has the same pattern. So I just, I personally did a little takeaway. I'm like, oh, interesting what they've done there. And it's a little bit of a. I know maybe it wasn't ever intentional, but it almost makes the implication that this is like some sort of syndication feed or something like that. Yeah. At least me as a geek, that's the way I see it. I might be completely wrong. I'm sure the Audible designer of that logo will come back and say, no, it's because of this and that. But Audible's not a true podcast platform either, and never has been.
Believe me, they've tried to be over the years many times.
Right.
Well, and that logo also, maybe it's cutting edge, but I think it's purely by accident. But the mobile devices are starting to look like books. So you can, with the Surface Duo and these foldable screen devices now that we're gonna all have in our lives, are gonna start looking like books.
Mike Dell just moved into a new studio, and he's got a bookshelf behind his desk, and he's got a Kindle on. He says, see my bookshelf? See my collection of books? Single Kindle sitting there. I had to laugh. I'm like, thinking, Mike, you got to put a few books. I got a full bookshelf right there. See the Kindle?
Right.
I got 450,000 books sitting on my bookshelf.
I've got a few books behind me, but not many. They're mostly microphones.
Yeah.
But did you see the data that came out on Pod News a couple days ago, talking about the distribution of download across platforms on Pod News? I thought it was interesting. It kind of compared what PodTrack was showing against what Libsyn was showing. I don't know that they listed stuff from your platform.
No, we don't put out numbers on a regular basis.
Well, it's the distribution of where people are consuming stuff, right? So PodTrack was showing that Apple has about 61% of the total US downloads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I believe this is just for August. And wait a minute. And then PodTrack is showing that Spotify has 9.4% of the US downloads.
No, I think it wasn't downloads, was it? Or did they say downloads?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says US downloads. And then
I'd agree with that number.
Libsyn is showing 68.4% on Apple and 9.1% on Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify's under 10% with us too.
Right. And I think some of the platforms were showing as high as 13% for Spotify. So I don't know if that is a sign that they've gone down.
We've seen month after month, at least in just market share, but volume is obviously up too. So,
but it is fascinating that PodTrack showing only 61% on Apple, where Libsyn is showing 68.
Our
That's a 7% difference.
I think probably Blueberry is closer to what Podtrack is. Again, don't quote me. I haven't looked here, the last month or so, but we've also seen a huge increase by Google Podcast. And of course, we've always had a heavier lift on Android anyway, just because of our efforts around for the last 5 or 6 years of trying to get people to subscribe on Android.
Well, I don't even see Google Podcasts on the list here. So of data,
well, they only compared 2. They didn't go down the list and talk about the top 10, did they?
Well, they looks like number 3 is Chrome. So
browser,
then the next one down from that is Stitcher, and Podtrack is showing a higher amount of downloads off of Stitcher than.
What was the percentage?
It looked like 2%.
That's probably about right. If you combine Stitcher, yeah. So there's 2 Stitcher numbers, Android and iOS. So
right. So
that's probably about right. But
I thought that was interesting.
So also you have to break out whether it's Chrome Mobile or Chrome Desktop. There's different versions of Chrome, so you have to be careful there on how you break that out.
Yeah, and then other was 13.2%. So that probably includes Google Podcasts and all of the smaller apps. But that's a pretty big chunk of other. Surprised that they didn't break out more. Anyway,
I'm seeing more and more stuff on Google. When I don't know, maybe I'm a prolific Google. I actually Google stuff before I put in a domain name half the time, because sometimes it's shorter to type the search than it is to type the domain name. And I'm finding all kinds of podcasts popping up in Google search results. So,
yeah, I think that's what we were hoping for, right?
Yep.
We would see good growth in the Google side of podcasting.
And they can believe, they're little by little. You can see they're releasing stuff little by little, and it's making it into production. So, time will tell on the whole Google play. Here's the thing. They are don't let anybody fool what's going on in the podcasting space, because between Apple and Google, they technically could eat everybody's, 25 times over. If they want to get serious. And I know
they should be able to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're trying to, I don't know. I think we had some more feedback on Apple, but I have a real hard time complaining about Apple. Besides the Anchor thing.
Well, the honest God truth is we wouldn't be where we're at with this medium if it wasn't for Apple. So,
honest God's truth, we wouldn't be here without Adam Curry either.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Dave Weiner.
True. Yeah.
None of it. It would maybe this would evolve differently, but I wouldn't be here.
I think Dave was probably the more critical piece, because he was the one that actually came up with I guess they're both kind of equal, because from what I gather, what Adam says is that he's the one that had the idea of the enclosure tag that he shared with Dave, and Dave is the one that deployed it in.
Well, you can never get Dave to talk about that, And also what happens, it's just like, Rob, in 2004, I caught a fish this big. But in 2020, all our brains do not work. I have to go back to stuff that I wrote to make sure I get a frame of reference, because, facts drift.
Mm-hmm.
And, you tell the story 25 times and you tell it 25 different ways, and then so.
Yeah, that's how tales evolve into lies.
So a lot of people have their own opinions on all this stuff. But I know why I started a podcast. I was sitting in a hotel room in Waco, Texas, the Hampton Inn. I can picture the hotel right now. In fact, I can't stay at Hampton Inns anymore because I smell the breakfast and I want to throw up because I spent so many days at Hampton Inns. But I started the podcast in that my tech show, and in that Hampton Inn, purely based upon I don't know how, I don't even know how I found Dave Weiner and Adam Curry talking about podcasting. I don't even remember how I found it. I really wish I would remember how I actually found that.
Well, I found it because I was doing a radio show on technology, and that's what put me in the actual loop of it.
So something triggered me to find that and
right.
Make the drive across the street to get a $13.95 or $14.95, whatever it was, LabTac microphone. That little plastic one, the real cheap one that plugged into the audio jack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, first 3-4 episodes recorded on that. And then I made the trip to Dallas to buy a microphone. It's just a series of events. You just, it's like you never know what's going to happen. I don't want to be melodramatic about it. But we've got a lot of rubber under the road here.
Right.
Oh my God. And a lot less hair.
Right. There's been a few years that have progressed.
For both of us, we're coming up on 16 years.
Yeah, when I issued an RSS feed for my radio show was on September 15th or 16th.
Yeah, I came in
of 2004.
I came in like October. It's somewhere between the 4th and the 9th, something like that. I've got the date written down somewhere. And so yeah, so a little bit of perspective. So when if you think about this, let's just put a timeline on this. So, Adam started building a directory, and this is maybe a piece of history that needs to be talked about too. Started building a directory. He talks about the time that he talked with Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs had already, essentially, Adam admitted it, he'd already built a directory on their own, but Steve, I guess, had said, can I use, they had a conversation that you guys can listen to Adam tell it. But from October of 2004, September, October 2004 to July of 2005, it was an incredible amount of stuff got done in that amount of time in the podcasting space. And then July of 2005, Apple announced podcast inclusion in iTunes, and we were off to the races. And what really happened at that point was Adam didn't need to build a directory at that point. He stopped. That was abandoned. The iPodder was largely abandoned. All those little projects we talked about for years, Rob, how Apple coming into space really actually stopped innovation.
Yeah, they basically sent out cease and desist letters to all the companies that were using the word pod in them because of the iPod. That was the trademark.
So, there was instantly not only that, but people just gave up projects, and then we were on our merry way and happy-go-lucky because we were in the...
That's what birthed the platform of Twitter today, was when Apple launched. The guys that created Twitter abandoned Audio, which was the biggest online directory of podcasts.
What year did Twitter launch?
2007.
It was founded March 21, 2006.
Okay, yeah. Well,
and
it took them a little bit while to get momentum.
Yeah, because Audio, right, that's right. Audio was
launched in 2005.
Yeah, and they had, man, we're going back.
I don't think Audio actually operated for very long before they kind of abandoned it, because I think it only operated for maybe 6 to 8 months before Apple launched.
Isn't that funny, though? You guys think about this. The founders of Twitter shifted to Twitter because of Apple. It's pretty amazing.
Well, they tried the company I was working for at the time. It was a podcasting kind of online music platform that I was working for
Oh,
in 2005. Tried to buy the audio platform.
There's a Business Insider magazine article about it.
Right.
Evan Williams has started called Audio. It's going to be a podcasting platform. Evan asked his friend ex-Googler named Biz Stone to join him. When Apple launched iTunes podcasting and made audio podcasting platform irrelevant, Evan and Biz and audio employee Jack Dorsey decided to create something called Twitter.
Right. And they basically bundled up audio and tried to sell it to other companies for about $1 million.
So anyway, that, how many of you knew that?
Right. And the reason that they were trying to sell the audio platform technology was so they could fund the startup of Twitter.
And
also pay back some of the investors that invested in creating audio.
So Noah had a product where you called a phone number and it would turn your message into MP3. That was the technology that Noah brought that turned into audio. Along with Charles River Ventures, about a dozen other individuals, one Glass's earliest investors in audio was a former Google employee named Evan Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, blah, blah. Of course, Jack Dorsey is a name that's synonymous with Twitter even to this day.
Yep.
He said, in fall of 2005, the beep hit the fan. And actually, it was July of 2005 when Apple first announced iTunes would include a podcasting platform built into it. Yeah.
I thought it was June.
Well, the Business Insider article says fall, but it wasn't fall. It was July. So anyway, back to the thing, innovation stopped. And it was many of us were quite bitter about that.
Yeah.
We really were. And, in mid 2005, I'm doing my own thing. I've got a GoDaddy advertising deal. They want to have more podcasters be advertising. That's how kind of Rob and I got hooked up, because Rob became part of Tech Podcasts, and we were all had sponsorship money. And I don't know if you took part in any of those deals or not. Back in those early days, you had your stuff going on.
Yeah, no, I was taking ads on my show, and then also I was working for a mobile startup company back then, like I mentioned earlier, called Melodio.
Yeah.
And that platform was transitioning from being a music platform for Java phones on those early pre-smartphone devices. And that was prior to Apple getting into podcasting.
So
to some degree, but not by much. It was about the same timing.
But if you look at what on the other side of the fence, what happened over at Libsyn is basically we are all trying to figure out how to host this media, because we're jumping between shared hosting. I think I had up to 12.
Right.
I had like 3 GoDaddy accounts, 4, from Bluehost, different credit card numbers and, kids' names and everything else to try to keep the show online. And then, Libsyn launched their first hosting platform. And
then that company, Melodio in Seattle, came very close to their investors behind that company, came very close to buying Libsyn in
the early days.
In 2006.
Boy, they made a mistake, didn't they? So anyway,
there's a whole story behind why that didn't happen, but I don't think we have to go there.
So so really, when Blueberry, at least on my part, we were just doing advertising then, and then we had to have a way to measure, and then we built the measurement platform, and we used a script from oh my God, how were we doing the measurement in the early days? It was from Chuck. Oh my God, he's Chuck Tomasi.
Oh yeah,
Chuck Tomasi wrote the first log parser for us to help figure out what the download numbers. Of course, there was no filter here, nothing. It was just, it was raw, and we were billing on that. Woo! we're high on the hog. We had a measurement system.
Right.
Oh my God. Sorry to all those advertisers, but you kept writing the checks. Oh my God, for about a year. That was the first thing I told Angela to build. I need measurement. And then come the reality check. It's like, hey, about 80% of this is junk. We got to throw this out. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
It's the click play measurement, right?
Yeah. What? Right. He says, oh, and there's some fraud in here too. We got to remove what? Oh, and we can't count that. That's a bot. What?
Well, and that's how all the IAB specs, or that's kind of where it came out of, is
right.
people discovering duplicate requests and fraudulent requests.
So, we just made this stuff up as we went. We had no clue.
Right.
How did we get here? I think about it to the day and I'm like, my God, Rob. We just and we had, I'll be honest with you, we bundled a lot of hard work, 20-hour days. If I had to do the work I did then, I'd be dead, I complain about having a 10-hour day now.
Well,
and we all had full-time jobs. And I had a full-time job. I was still in the Navy. I was still deploying. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But so going back to, again, this beginning time, that the only innovation that was happening was commercial. We started a business. Libsyn started a business. People started coming on. Companies started, ours was largely revenue based advertising based at the beginning. Libsyn was service based. If I'd have been smart, I'd have started the service. But then I was like, oh, look at that. Look at how they're going to scale that and make that work and pay those broadband bills, because then media delivery was wow.
I was working on, in 2005, I was working on subscription business around podcasts.
Yeah,
on mobile phone.
So
that tells you anything.
It's just, so all this stuff, and then, Apple's still trudging away. There's no Android. Remember, there's no Android at this point. It doesn't exist.
No. Right.
Pocket
PCs.
Yeah. This was a pipe dream,
Right.
So anyway, it was just one of those things that evolved. But now, going back to podcast 2.0, it feels like October of 2004 again.
Yeah. That's the feeling that I had when I was listening to that
too.
podcast that Adam was doing.
And that's why people that have no contacts are like, what? Why?
Right. Yeah.
Why is he doing this? Why? So maybe we've given you a little context, and you guys have been listening to the show long enough, you know where we're coming from when we say some of this stuff.
Yeah. And why Adam's doing what he's doing.
That's right.
That's what his real motivation is he's seeing things in the market that he doesn't like, and his instinct is to open stuff up.
There's a saying, let me find it. I have to find it because it's appropriate. No, that was dumb. All right, hang on here. Let me read the statement that is key to all of this. Okay. I'll put the slide up on my screen here. See if I can get my converter to, I screwed it up by killing it here. Let's see if it'll update. Let's just do the desktop. I'm not showing anything. I can't do that. File, Windows Server. I got to do accurate. So here's the statement. Oops. Rob.
I'll make a statement if you need. No.
With $16 million worth of airplanes strapped to my ass and the next generation radio content in my ears, I'd like to think I'm flying into the future. Now, why is that statement today? You think, I go on an airplane all the time and listen to content.
Right.
Well, that's dumb. But if you think back to the day of no iPhone.
Right.
And all we had was
and no on plane on.
you could listen to
right.
plane bandwidth. You could listen to what what American Airlines United piped into the radio system for you to listen to.
Right.
You weren't taking any media with you anywhere.
No.
And what this statement is really inferring about, and why I have to explain this, is because when this statement was made, there was no mobile internet. Oh my God, can you imagine us having mobile internet? There was no such thing.
Right.
So,
well, or it was very, very early and nascent.
Right? Yeah. So that's why that statement is so profound, is in that time frame when that statement was an intro to his stone. It was a fantastic little intro. It's true. He said, I like to think I'm flying into the future, because he took that with him.
On-demand audio.
On-demand audio. Your podcast in your pocket.
Spoken word audio, not just music.
That's right. In your pocket. Whole 8 or 9 episodes of someone's podcast you could listen to on that little device. At 256. How much memory does it have? 256 megabytes. That's all it would hold. Woo! We were styling.
Yeah. Actually, that wouldn't hold a lot of content.
No. Maybe 3 episodes now. But people weren't encoding at 128. We were encoding at 32K.
Right.
You know?
Or sometimes less.
Less, yeah.
Some of the streaming that I did back then for my radio show was at 16K.
I got an iPod around here somewhere. But, you know, I think, so the perspective, and again, I go back to something I have in one of my slides. I say, what we have is precious. And people just don't realize how precious it is. I hope this audience does. We've only pounded that in their brain about 5 million times.
Yeah. And that's why Adam is having a reaction to protect it.
So, what you think?
But the question gets back to, Todd, is do we really need that specific protection right now? I think is the bigger question.
No, but I'm glad he's doing it.
Yeah, I think it sends the right signal to people and maybe gives people a little understanding about the reason this medium exists.
A lot of people aren't going to understand it. They're going to think he's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going to get it.
It's up to us to explain that.
And I hope we've done that today.
Yeah.
And it may be all from you. We never need it.
Well, I hope we don't.
Nope. But if we do need it, I know at least we're ready. And Adam's going to be ready. And maybe a few others that have built direct are going to be ready. Because there's a few more out there, too, that are underground.
Yeah. It's the replication of that. Yeah. You can certainly see it's the same ideology behind BitTorrent, right?
And Rob, I didn't build a directory to be a doomsday protector, but I built a directory to have insurance.
Well, for say that Apple API went away.
It's just purely an insurance policy is all it is.
There would be a lot of apps out there that would be like scrambling.
And I'm not, I Google, I laughed the other day, said, hand you a contract. But no, it's purely insurance,
Right. And not that we really think that Apple's going to.
Well, I already said it. I don't think they're going to do that.
Right. But nonetheless,
you buy insurance. You buy insurance for the day when the tornado comes, or when the tsunami comes, or a fire, or that's what you buy insurance from. You hope you never have to call the insurance agent and say, I need a check written. you buy car insurance praying you never get in a wreck. But if you do,
you're covered.
That's right. So our director was in an insurance policy.
Yep.
And Adam's building an insurance policy. I think it's pretty commendable. He cares. That's the thing.
Yeah, because I had definitely had the impression that he was kind of pulling away from being a leader in the medium for for many years, and I guess this has happened since he was on our show. So I don't know if we inspired him.
I don't know. I don't know if we. I don't know if we have to go back and listen to the interview again and see what we talked about, but time will tell. All right, we're long. Believe it or not,
okay.
we're at hour 35. You guys are entertained today? Have a good time. Number of comments on Facebook, number of comments on YouTube. Some of you are watching and not commenting. You anonymous people.
Right.
So we have grown. I did check the stats. So we are increasing by about another 1,000 listeners. So
and we're also, causing people to think about issues out there too. Just, I don't know, we probably don't have time to talk about the Twitter stream that happened, but yeah, there's all sorts of little things going on.
You guys can look at the Twitter stream, and the Twitter stream was erupted based upon one comment Rob and I had about a panelist that was less than qualified to be on a panel we were on some time ago. Right. And we got a reaction to that.
Yep.
So I think, though, our records stand pretty clear that Rob and I know my company's very inclusive. I have a very diverse workforce. My team members all have many of them have active voice in the podcasting space. And it's not all white guys.
So did you go look at that link that he shared about?
I have not had time to go look at that yet. I didn't even know about that.
I didn't either. It's called the Equality in Audio Pack.
Problem is there's equality in podcasting already. Why do you need a pack?
It's like a statement of support. What it is.
My God, that's what we've been building from the beginning, is to have inclusive voices.
Yeah.
I don't have to sign a pack.
That's what we've always wanted.
I'll let my body of work be a representation of who and what we've done.
Yep.
Go all the way back to the beginning of the podcast award. Look at the categories of the podcast awards. Look at the group that we included and no one else, even to this day, has. I don't have to defend, and I won't.
Yeah, but it's the climate of the world that we're in right
now. I
so.
fully understand that.
Yep. Change is afoot.
No, I don't have to defend my personal record, and that's what people want you to do. They want you to become on defense.
Right.
So.
Yep.
I'm not going to go on defense. I don't have to.
Right. So.
All right.
Well, let's wrap it up.
Everyone, thank you for being here. Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee. And you can send me an email if you want to robg@libsyn.com. Love to hear from you.
And we look forward to seeing you guys. If you have comments, we'd like to hear your email or put us on blast on Twitter, I guess. And I'm not saying I'm going to debate you. That's never a win situation when we debate someone. So, because you can never say exactly the right thing.
And sometimes you can't convince somebody to change their mind.
Right,
either.
You can't. Yeah, and they believe what they want to believe.
Right.
So, and that's all you can do. All right.
That's
Hey,
the lesson from the world today that we live in. Right?
that's absolutely true. Be safe. Take care of your elderly. Watch out for one another. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Are we back here on Saturday, Rob?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Not going out for another weekend. So, okay, everyone. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a long day for me and probably all of you too. So,
Yep.
everyone, thanks for being here. We're going to take care next time.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.